Alright friends, it is that time again where we do another concept video for Dead by Daylight, and it just so happens that the day I wanted to do this is the 9th anniversary reveal for DBD, and they had teased that the next chapter after FNAF would be The Walking Dead, specifically The Ones Who Live. So that chapter I believe would be Rick and Michonne, but I was like, I might as well just release this now beforehand, so it wouldn't make sense if I released it after the chapter came out. At least then we can compare, how did I do with mine, how did they do with theirs, if there's any similarities. And I've been working on this video for a while now. I was working on the perks, picking who the survivors and the killer would be on and off since like January. I'd been meaning to release this video for so long, but then they just announced it, and I was like, you know what? Let me just do this now. This is the best case scenario. We know now that The Walking Dead is 100% coming to Dead by Daylight, and I already have the whole concept down of what I personally would like it to be. So I guess let's just go through this. We'll go through the survivors, the perks, outfits, killers, maps, all that stuff that we previously have done. There are 2 episodes before this one. I've done Supernatural and Courage the Cowardly Dog. So The Walking Dead will be the 3rd episode. If you have any other concepts you would like to see, let me know down below. I would be more than happy to make more, especially with certain franchises that you typically wouldn't see in DBD, which is what I did with Courage. But again, please suggest anything below, and let's get right into it. So, for those that are not familiar with The Walking Dead, The Walking Dead is a post apocalyptic horror drama television series centered around survivors trying to stay alive under near constant threat of attacks from zombies known as walkers and other survivors that have formed their own groups with their own laws and morality. So, although it is a zombie show, The Walking Dead really is referring to the survivors within the show. And fun fact, there actually is no concept of zombies in that universe, which is why they call them walkers. I believe in this specific universe, like George Romero doesn't exist, so zombies are never created. So that's a cool fact. That's why they call them walkers, and we'll be referring to them in another name as well, but that is for when we get to the killer side. So let's look who our first survivor is, which is pretty obvious. Rick Grimes. Rick is a former sheriff's deputy who was shot in the line of duty and fell into a coma, only to awaken and find himself amid the apocalypse. Relying on his former police skills and survival tactics, Rick has evolved into a battle-hardened survivor who will protect his family and group without question. So given this description, that's what his perks will center around, that being Rick's survivability and his sheer will to protect his own. And of course, spoilers ahead, the perk names, icons, they will be referencing things throughout the show. I will be mentioning key moments throughout the show, so if you're not caught up, if you're afraid of spoilers, maybe check out the show first or something and then come back here. But let's get into the first perk. Alright, Rick Grimes' first perk is going to be The Ones Who Live. For every survivor alive, you unhook 11% faster. For every survivor you unhook, you heal 11% faster, and you gain an additional 5% when hitting skill checks while healing. When the exit gates are powered, you heal and unhook 11% faster, and gain 50% to your health progress bar if you are injured or on a hook. When the exit gates are opened, you heal and unhook 11% faster, and gain 50% to your health progress bar if you are injured or on a hook. So right off the bat, you are unhooking 11% faster per survivor that is alive, which includes yourself, so that's a 44% increase to unhooking, and obviously that can be paired with other perks. And then for every survivor you unhook, you're now healing faster, and that includes yourself. So if you unhook yourself, whether it's from the 4%, Deliverance, or Sable's perk in the basement, that counts as you unhooking a survivor, so it goes towards that healing progress. So, and then the exit gates are powered, and now again, you're healing and unhooking faster, but you also gain 50% to your health. So, if you're injured, you're already 50% healed now. So, this is that part of it is like a weaker adrenaline, but it has some things to it, you know? Maybe you get healed before the exit gates are open, and then you get injured again, you get hooked. Well, now you unhook. Well, guess what? You're back to 50%. So, in a way, it's like similar to Resurgence, right? Where Resurgence off a hook is a 70% heal. This will give you 50% if you're injured or on a hook. But it also can add on depending on whether you time it with the exit gate being powered and the exit gates being open. But that's his first perk. The Ones Who Live is in reference to the show, which is Rick and Michonne's spinoff. The perk icon is also in reference to that. It was part of a promotional image for the show where Michonne's katana is going through a map that says the new world is going to need Rick Grimes. So that's what I wanted to include with this, and in a way include Michonne into this perk. The Ones Who Live also references the quote that's said in the final episode of the show by Judith and other characters, which is why they ended up calling the spin-off The Ones Who Live. So it all has something to tie with that quote and the show. Alright, perk number 2, Officer Friendly. The first time you heal each survivor, you heal 50% faster. For every survivor you heal, gain a permanent 11% towards your health progress whenever you are unhooked. For every protection hit you take, gain a permanent 11% towards your health progress whenever you are in the dying state. When you are in the dying state and are within 16 meters of another survivor, you gain the ability to pick yourself up once per trial and crawl 50% faster. Survivors within 16 meters of you while you are in the dying state gain 5% haste and have their grunts of pain reduced by 50%. So obviously, if you've noticed by now, I like perks with layers to them and that add on to each other, you know, like building blocks. I really like that. Obviously, there is an advantage to simpler perks, especially with newer survivors. But I like the idea of having these perks that really build on each other and have several layers to them. So, for instance, with this first part, the first time you heal each survivor, you heal 50% faster. That part triggers 4 times because it counts yourself as well. So, if you have a medkit or you have a perk that allows you to heal yourself, you can heal yourself 50% faster. Mentioning Resurgence again, now someone might look at this and be like, well, Resurgence is an easier perk to use since it gives you a 70% bonus, but that's its only effect. Its only effect is to give you a 70% bonus when you're unhooked, right? And this will give you 11% for every survivor you heal when you're unhooked. But it also has other layers to it. It expands upon that concept. So I like having a simple perk like Resurgence, but what if we took that perk apart and made it into something more? And that's what this perk kind of is. So this perk is basically rewarding you for being a team player as you get rewarded for healing, taking protection hits, and crawling to a survivor. You know, in solo queue, a lot of times, a lot of people let you die on hook. They won't go to heal you. They won't want to protect you. It's pretty troubling sometimes to play solo queue, and this will encourage people to want to play as a team. And then if you already have a Swift, this is going to be deadly against a killer. Especially maybe some M1 killers that are slower against, you know, a team of 4. And this will be really, really good to use whether you're on your own or with people. And something to know about this is notice that it says for every survivor you heal, this would trigger with things like mending. You know, this is not just about healing a survivor full. This is picking them up, mending, and then full heals. So this can be triggered in 3 different ways. And I like the idea that you can really pair this perk with several other perks. So maybe you want a protection hit build and you draw Metal of Man, Plot Twist, Tenacity, or Unbreakable. And you really go for certain protection hits because when you end up going down, well, now you're going to get yourself up quicker. So imagine you have Metal of Man that really wants you to take protection hits and you can trigger that perk. Or maybe when you finally go down, well, guess what? You have Tenacity, you have Flip Flop, you have Unbreakable to really help with that dying state, especially if a killer is slugging. I've noticed lately a lot of killers really like slugging, even with the new abandon feature. So this could pair with that. And then also, it really makes it tactical in the sense that maybe you do want to stay in the dying state for a bit. Because it says here, when you're in the dying state and you're within 16 meters of another survivor, you can pick yourself up. So maybe you don't want Unbreakable, right? Maybe you want to run Flip Flop or something, just in case the killer picks you up. Well, now you can pick yourself up, and now you crawl 50% faster. Maybe you want to pair that with Tenacity. Or maybe you just want to stay down because if there are survivors within 60 meters of you while you're in the dying state, now they're faster and they're quieter. So it really is a tactical way to use this perk. It gives you several options to use it and it's not really one dimensional. And I like that. Which, by the way, again, it's fine that there are one dimensional perks. But I think we also need perks that can do more than one thing and really spice things up. And this perk really, really shows that. And I was debating whether or not I should add those last two lines, with picking yourself up or giving them haste. But hey, they just released a survivor perk that gives everybody like 25% haste if you take a protection hit. So I'm like, hey, why not? If things are OP, I mean, that's fine. There are other OP things in the game. They can also nerf them. And again, this is a concept. But to talk about the reference, Officer Friendly refers to what the Atlanta survivors called Rick Grimes first when they saw him was Officer Friendly. I believe it might have been Morales because they called him Officer Friendly and they called him Helicopter Boy. And I thought of actually doing Helicopter Boy as a perk, but Officer Friendly made more sense. And obviously, the perk icon is his hat, his iconic hat that he wears, that he passes on to Carl and then Judith. So that's Officer Friendly. Let's look at his third and final perk. Don't dead open inside. We'll talk about the name of this perk, but yes, it sounds stupid, but trust me, it makes sense. You always see the aura of exit gates and open them 11% faster. You can see the open progress of exit gates by the intensity of their aura. When you are 16 meters within the exit gate, your aura is revealed to all survivors. When you are 16 meters within an exit gate, gain 50% speed to unhooking, vaulting, healing, unlocking a chest, cleansing and blessing totems, and sabotaging hooks. When the exit gates are powered, all survivors see the aura of exit gates for an additional 16 seconds. Survivors within 16 meters of an opened exit gate crawl 50% faster and have reduced grunts of pain by 50%. So we don't have a lot of endgame perks, I feel, specifically centered around the exit gates. You have Wake Up, which I believe lets you also see the aura of exit gates, but within a certain range, and you can open them faster. And then you have Soul Survivor, but I don't remember any other exit gate specific perks. And I thought this would be perfect given what Rick sees in the show. So right off the bat, you see the aura of exit gates at all times. From the start of the try, you see them all. And then you open 11% faster. Now, obviously, you don't want to overdo it with that part because if you can open them fairly quickly, it just makes it where the killer can never really get anywhere. And then you can tell if an exit gate is close to being opened or is 99 based on the intensity of the aura. It's similar to certain killer perks that let you see the intensity of a generator's aura, so that's where I got that idea from. And then I wanted it to be, well, alright, imagine even during the game, when there are still generators and you're near an exit gate, well, if there are survivors injured and now they can see you, well, they're going to run towards you because you also gain 50% speeds to healing. That's part of the entire speed that you get with, whether it's unhooking, vaulting, chest, cleansing, and whatnot. And then when they're powered, now all other survivors get affected by this too, because when that last gen hits, now they see them for an additional 16 seconds. And if they open the gate, now they crawl 50% faster and they're quieter. Usually sometimes a killer will have, I don't know, Noed. And Noed really messes with trying to linger around an exit gate, even Bloodwarden. This could help a bit by having people crawl away, reset and stuff. We don't really have a perk like that to reset against moments like that and to capitalize on it. And I think this perk enables you to really see the end game as now more of a tactical thing to go against. Instead of, oh, he has no head, alright, let's leave. He already got one of us down, he might have Blood Warden, we can't really do anything against this. This will help you, combat that. And if you're questioning, by the way, the name Don't Dead Open Inside, when Rick wakes up from the hospital, he sees the door that you can see in the background. And when people were first watching the show, everyone, if you watch reactions to the show, they're like, Don't Dead Open Inside? That makes no sense. But it's supposed to be read Don't Open Dead Inside. It's supposed to be read completely from the left, bottom, top right, bottom right. But people just, read it naturally left to right. So I was like, you know what? Let me make the perk actually that name, Don't Dead Open Inside. I think it's a funny little Easter egg kind of thing. But this is the Exit Gate perk. I think this perk would really be fun to use. You see the Exit Gate at all times. Even if you don't get to the final gen, you can still get use out of it. By like sticking around there, healing faster. Maybe there's a Killer Shack near it. Now you can loop Killer Shack with faster vaulting and whatnot. Maybe there's a chest near there, basements near there, all that stuff. It's really RNG based, and I love RNG in games. And I think you could get a lot of use from this perk, and it also helps survivors too. So you want to open an exit gate, you want to keep it just closed, you want to hang out around there. Well, pick your poison, do whatever you want, but that's the perk. So those are Rick's 3 perks. They really centered around him surviving and his teammates surviving, and I think that encapsulates him perfectly within the show. So if you like those perks, let me know. If there's anything you would change about them, again, let me know. But let's move on to his skins. So with the skins for this, I decided to just do it by season. And I included 2 skins per season. So we have season 1, 2, and 3, and you can see the vast majority of outfits that Rick will wear. And I think it would be nice to have a lot of different outfits for him if when he releases. I was gonna say if he releases, but now we know it's confirmed for the game. They haven't officially said it, but they've teased it in the roadmap. I really wish they would release with a lot of outfits, like 10 outfits. You're doing this collab, go all out. Show us his outfits from the whole show. So we got season 1, 2, and 3. We have 4, 5, and 6. I think 5 and 6 are really his iconic kind of outfits with the big beard and the long hair and the blood on his face and all that. I think that could really be a nice outfit for him to use. Even the one where he has bandages on his face, you could do that. I think it would be nice to get some unconventional outfits that you wouldn't really think about for him, but hey, he wore it in the show. So why not? Season 7, 8, 9, 11. Of course, Rick was not in season 10. Spoiler alert. He departed in season 9 and came back in season 11. I really like his season 9 fit. It's just a very clean fit, and I think it's different than what we're used to with Rick with his hair. And then you get that sort of dirty, just like survival look in season 11 that I think would be really nice. And the jacket I think they could use, which I really like, just to see how just messed up he looks. He looks so dirty. He looks so out of it. I think in this outfit he doesn't even have shoes on. If they want to have his toes out, by all means, I'm pretty sure people will be into that. But that's something they could do. And then finally, you have his The Ones Who Live fit. And I think what's cool about this is that he has one arm in this. He has a metal left arm that I think they could incorporate with this, which would be really cool. I don't know how that would like affect the game. Like I know they change the clowns Mori depending on a guy or a girl because of Ash, so it could be something like that. But I think they should definitely include The Ones Who Live outfits for him, and they should at least include one outfit per season. Um, like with Laura Croft, they had released a few outfits for her. I want way more than that. This is The Walking Dead we're talking about. You could do as much as you want. You could even create your own, and I think we should do that. But next, we're gonna look at his alternate skins, which is this is other survivors. We have Michonne Grimes, Morgan, Shane, Carl Grimes, Lori, and Glenn and Maggie Ree. Now, right off the bat, you're probably gonna be like, wait a minute, why is Michonne an alternate outfit for him and not her own character? I will explain that when we get to the next survivor, but I picked the two survivors based on who they can have for their alternate outfits, and I think you could get a lot of things out of them based on these two survivors. I think you could get a little limited if it's Rick and Michonne, and I think it'd be just better if Michonne would be an alternate outfit for him. But these are the people that he really had a connection with. Michonne is obviously his wife. Morgan was the guy who helped him in the beginning. He was the first man to really look after Rick and taught him about what's going on. Shane was his former best friend, and he played a very significant part in Rick's survival throughout the show because he really taught him, hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, and that includes killing your best friend. Obviously, we also have Carl and Lori. Lori's his ex-wife, Carl is his son. And then we have Glenn and Maggie Ree, who he really formed a connection with throughout the show. And he basically knew them since the start. And I think these would be great alternate outfits for him. And you can include other survivors if you want, especially from The Ones Who Live. But I think these were his main ones. So yeah. Let's move on to the second survivor, who I think might be a shocker to some. They probably expected Michonne to be it, but I think he would fit very, very well as his standalone own survivor, and that is Daryl Dixon. Daryl is an expert at hunting, tracking, navigation, and observation. He is also a skilled combatant, knife wielder, and crossbowman. Rick Grimes values him as his right-hand man, close friend, and later as his brother. So just like Rick, his perks will center around this. Him being a tracker, him being reliable, a right-hand man, that's what his perks will feature and really highlight what kind of person he was. All right, his first perk, Guardian Angel. When you take a protection hit, this perk activates for the next 60 seconds. You gain the broken status effect, your grunts of pain are 100% louder, and you gain 25% haste. So right away, you might be like, wait a minute, this is stupid. Why am I broken? Why am I louder? What the hell is the point of this? Well, you get haste with that, and then you get something else. The survivor you took the protection hit for leaves no pools of blood. Their grunts of pain are reduced by 50%. Their scratch marks are smaller and fades 75% quicker. And their walking speed is increased by 100%. And you both see each other's aura. So the point of this is, imagine a killer is tunneling a survivor, and typically even if you take a protection hit, they still go after that survivor. Well, now you're louder and they're quieter. So they don't leave pools of blood. They're quieter. If they want to walk, they can. If they want to run, they can because their scratch marks are going away, you know? And you see them both, so you can go for flashlight saves or whatnot. But then there's another part to this perk. After 60 seconds, if you have not gone down, you will lose the broken status effect and be healed 1 health state. So this really messes with the killer. Because they can either go after the survivor and struggle to find them, or they can go after you. But if they don't get you, well, now you're healed. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation for the killer, but I think it really is needed, especially against some of these faster killers. Especially like these faster killers, like the Ghoul or Blight or Nurse, that can really catch up right away. I think this is a perk to really just, rub it in their face. Like, hey, go after me. I'm louder. I'm broken, you know? But I'm also faster. And if you can't hit me within that time frame, well, now I'm healed. Oh, you want to go for my friend? Go ahead if you can find him. I think this perk really encapsulates Daryl very, very well because he has always gone out of his way to protect people and really be that overall like guardian for some, especially for characters like Carol, for instance. He really helped Carol throughout the show, even Beth, and I think this fits him well. So that's what Guardian Angel references, and then the angel wings are obviously on his vest in the back, and I think it's nice to see a perk like that where it's really centered around, hey, go help out your teammate, he's getting tunneled, you know? And it can work in both solo queue and the Swift. And the Swift's probably going to be really strong. And in solo queue, it's going to incentivize you to help people. Because I think a lot of times in solo queue, everyone's out for themselves. But that's not really that fun. The fun of it is really looking at situations and being like, all right, how can we win this? What can we do? Because one teammate has 2 hooks, but everyone else has 0. And they're probably going to get tunneled again. So this combats that. Let's look at the second perk, Survival Instinct. This is going to be a controversial perk, I think. It's going to introduce a new concept in a way. It's a pre-existing concept, but it's new in the way that I'm going to present it. You always see the killer's scratch marks, and reduce the amount of scratch marks you leave behind by 66%. So yes, if the killers are moving around, they leave behind scratch marks now. Daryl is an expert tracker, so I think this fits him well. And, he leaves behind less scratch marks, so it goes hand in hand with his description of who he is as a person, but that's not it. When standing over the killer's scratch marks, press the active ability button to kneel and track the killer and reveal their position to all survivors for 6 seconds with survival instinct. So the killer scratch marks will last twice as long as survivors, and they will appear blue instead of red. And in terms of, the name survival instinct, it works just like killer instinct. With killer instinct, you see that that weird aura around the survivors, like the entity type thing, the scratch marks or whatever. That's what you will see on the survivor side. It's the same thing. Every time the killer's aura or position is revealed to you, gain 22% walking speed for a max of 66%. When next to a survivor, press the active ability button to teach them survival instinct and reduce their scratch marks by 50% and increase their walking speed by 25% for the next 60 seconds. Decreases the duration of all instances of your aura being revealed to the killer by 2 seconds. So this has a lot of layers to it again. Again with the layers. You know how much I like them. So first part, you're seeing the scratch marks of a killer. You leave behind a lot less. Secondly, you stand over scratch marks. You can now reveal the killer. This would help against maybe stealth-based killers or fast killers to see where they are now. And then every time you see their position, whether it's with you actually kneeling down and tracking them or with another perk that you have, well, now your walking speed increases. And then, if you want to take it up a notch, you can go next to a survivor and be like, hey, learn what I just learned. Here, now you're walking faster and you're leaving less scratch marks. So this could be balanced in a way that only one survivor at a time can learn this, so that's a way to balance it. And then it decreases your aura being read to them by 2 seconds. Killers have the perk from Nemesis that allows them to see auras longer, but this perk kind of goes against it, but it's one per survivor. So maybe if all 4 survivors have this, it's a problem. But I don't know. It's just it's an RNG thing that you might want to risk. But with the amount of aura perks killers have and their powers getting more intricate and unique now, I think a perk like this would work perfectly fine. I almost forgot to mention, Survival Instinct is not just in reference to Killer Instinct. It's actually a game. The Walking Dead Survival Instinct was a game released, I want to say, on the PS3. And it was a game centered around Daryl and Merle and takes place at the start of the apocalypse before they meet our Atlanta group. So before season 1, episode 1. It's not the best game at all. It's really pretty bad, but that's what it refers to. And the perk icon refers to all things that Daryl uses. Alright, let's look at Daryl's third and final perk, Easy Street. You hear the killer's terror radius or lullaby from an additional 6 meters. When you are within 48 meters of a killer's terror radius or lullaby, you see the aura of all survivors. When you are within 32 meters of a killer's terror radius or lullaby, the aura of the generator you are working on is revealed to all survivors. When you are within 16 meters of a killer's terror radius or lullaby, your aura is revealed to all survivors, and all windows and pallets are revealed to you. When you are within 6 meters of a killer's terror radius or lullaby, you see the aura of all generators, and the intensity of their aura is revealed by their progress, and you see the aura of the killer when they are using their unique power. Any generator within 6 meters of you while you are being chased by the killer is immune from regression. So this is a perk first of its kind, I feel. I don't think we have a single perk that is centered around a killer's terror radius or lullaby where it increases in power the closer you are to the killer. But it has to do with Easy Street being the song that was played to torture Daryl. The song was used to show that anyone who shows resistance should instead take the Easy Street and just submit. But this is showing resistance by getting closer to the killer and getting more powerful. So right off the bat, you hear the killer's terror radius from an additional 6 meters, so you can tell when they're, getting closer to you. And then, at that first part, you're seeing all survivors. And the second part, now your generator that you're working on is revealed to all survivors. And then if you're within 16 meters, now your aura is revealed to all. So you go from seeing all survivors to now seeing all survivors, having them see your generator, and then now them seeing you, and you seeing the pallets and windows. So it adds on. So by 6 meters, you have so much going on. Because on 6 meters, now you see all generators and their intensity. So if you're looping the killer, you're like, oh wait, this generator right here is pretty intense. That means they're working on it. And I can see the survivors. Let me hop off it. But let's just say there's no survivors on that generator. Well, you can still see the intensity. You can be like, okay, I don't want to die near there. Let's move. And then let's just say you have to go within 6 meters of a gen, and the killer downs you, and they have Surge. Surge does not work on that gen because you have this perk. That might be an OP perk, by the way, like that part of it. But it is while you're being chased, so I think, it balances its way out. because I think chasing a survivor, downing them, and then having a gen get popped or like start regressing from surge is kind of annoying. So I think it would limit a survivor. It would limit a killer in that way. And I think having more perks surrounded by lullabies or terrorists would be really nice. And it could definitely be used with other perks. And we explained what Easy Street is. So the perk icon is the Cherokee Rose on a beer bottle, and it's in reference to Daryl giving Carol this gift so she can keep her hope up in finding her daughter. And it had something to do with Native Americans and them when they weeped. This flower grew, and it kind of showed their strength. I believe that is what this means, but I thought it would go hand in hand with Easy Street by showing resistance and strength against, something that was supposed to really hinder you and hurt you. So those are Daryl's perks. Let's look at his outfits. So the problem with Daryl is, in the later seasons, he doesn't really have many outfits. They're all really just a tiny bit of a variation within each other. But we're still going to do the same thing with Rick and include things from each season. So this is season 1, 2, and 3. I think my most wanted would be his season 2 fit with the walker ears and the blood on him. I think that would be really, really nice. I think that could be nice as a prestige outfit, to be honest. You know how every survivor and killer gets the bloody prestige outfits? I think that could be it. Then you have 4, 5, and 6, and again, they're like the same, but they're not the same. One, he's wearing an extra layer. Another thing, he's wearing something else. But it's, I think it's good enough where you can make different outfits with them. Mix and match. And then season 8, 7, 8, and 9, you have varying outfits, especially with the Savior's outfit that he was being tortured in, and even the season 9 with the poncho. But where you really start getting different outfits is in the next slide, which is season 10, 11, and then Daryl Dixon season 1 and 2. I think having the Commonwealth outfit would be insane. It would be so damn cool. You would stick out, but I think it would be really nice to have. And this is definitely something they really need to add, because it's something that we really never imagined Daryl to wear, but he wore it and he looked clean for the first time. And I think this would fit perfectly and just really spice things up within Survivors. And then his alternate outfits. And this is the reason why I picked him as a survivor, because you can get a lot more than him as opposed to having Michonne, given who he interacted with. And that would be Carol, his best friend. Aaron, honestly, I would also consider that his best friend as well. He really got close to Aaron in season 6 and onward. And then you have Lydia, who he probably looked at like a younger sister or even daughter. You have Connie, who's basically his girlfriend. Merle, his brother. Beth, his little sister, basically. And then Rosita, who's a really close friend to him, and who is in the Commonwealth as well. So this is a reason I feel you can get so many survivors as alternate outfits with Rick Grimes and Daryl Dixon, as opposed to like just, Rick and Michonne. But again, if you disagree with me, let me know. If you think maybe I missed a survivor to include, let me know. But that's it for the survivors. I really had fun making the survivors. But let's move on to a really exciting part, and that's the killer side of things. Maybe go down below and predict who I'm gonna pick as the killer, and let me know if you're right or not. But I kind of have a unique way to do things with this killer, and I think it's gonna look really, really nice. I'm pretty sure in the DBD roadmap, it's just gonna be 2 survivors, so Rick and Michonne. There's not gonna be a killer, which is a bit disappointing, but I think it's exciting to see the potential of what a killer could be. So without further ado, let's look who I picked as the killer. And the next killers are the Whisperers. The Whisperers are a mysterious group of hostile survivors who disguise themselves with the skin of the undead. Their leader, Alpha, is a ruthless tyrant who will do anything to maintain the group's survival with her right-hand man Beta. So this will be a duo killer. You will get two killers with this that work as one. Kind of like the twins, but better. Alpha and Beta, the basics. You start the trial as Alpha. Alpha is a stealth-based killer with a lullaby. She uses Guardians as an information tool. And she equips a shotgun to slow survivors down and regress generators. You can switch to Beta after a specific amount of time or from a certain number of power uses. And he's an aggressive-based killer. He uses Guardians to close in on survivors. And in addition to knives, his body is his weapon. And he has a rage meter mechanic. All of these we will go in detail with. This is just a short, basic summary kind of what each killer can do. Guardians. Guardians are the first line of defense and offense for the Whisperers. They are the horde of walkers used by the Whisperers to mask and protect them, while also enabling them to trample communities. At the start of the trial, 5 Guardians randomly spawn around the map and can be used in various ways by Alpha and Beta. This is how Alpha uses Guardians. When playing as Alpha, Guardians can be used as a stealth or whisper mechanic. Stealth mechanic. For each Guardian walking, Alpha's terror radius is decreased by 5 meters, and her lullaby is increased by 5 meters. She can teleport to Guardians, effectively killing them momentarily. So, from a stealth standpoint, her terror radius is much lower. Her Guardian alive. So if there's 5 Guardians, 25-meter decrease, but a 25-meter increase to the lullaby. So her lullaby will be the song she sings to Lydia in the show, like oh Lydia. That's what it will be, and that's what you will probably hear for most of the game. And then she can teleport to these Guardians and, kind of like walk out of them in a way. And then she has the Whisper mechanic. Whisper mechanic allows you to channel your Whisper ability to see through the eyes of Guardians and tag generator progress, survivors, and items. When channeling this ability, survivors hear whispers throughout the entire realm. So you can momentarily look through the eyes of a Guardian as they're walking around the map, and you can even kind of guide their face. You can almost, if you want, to walk as them. And it's just so you can see who's there, what they're holding, if someone's being healed, the items, everything. And then while you're in one of the Guardians and you're looking through them, well, the survivors will know because they'll start hearing whispers, but they won't exactly know which Guardian you're at. So then you can combine that with your stealth mechanic and teleport to them. Or maybe you can just alright, I saw what I need to see, I tagged what I need to tag, let's run there. And that's what you could do. Alpha's next power is her shotgun. Despite relying on stealth, Alpha knows when to make noise with her double barrel shotgun. Uses a short range attack to hinder a survivor and deplete their items with each shot. So this shotgun cannot actually hurt a survivor. It's only when you're super close that you can use it to hit them with it. But shooting a survivor will just hinder them and use up their item every time you shoot them. You also gain the ability to shoot generators to regress them instead of having to kick them. So if you're chasing a survivor and you pass by a gen that's almost done, instead of just, going to kick that generator, shoot it. Now it's regressing. Add-ons can change use of the shotgun by making it long range and deal damage instead of hinder and regress. I love when add-ons really change up a killer's power, and this would be like that. So now you have an actual double barrel shotgun that's not sawed off. It's a long range one. It does damage, no more hinder, and no more regressing. So you can either go the hinder and regress route or the purely damage route if you want to be aggressive. And I think this is a cool way to do it. But moving on, let's see what Beta does. So with Guardians, Beta can use them as a follow or rage mechanic. Follow mechanic. Beta can orchestrate the Guardians to follow him around the map and do various commands. Commands include blocking windows, pallets, and generators. So similar to how like Singularity, when he looks at one of his cameras, you know how there's an icon that when you're looking at it? Or like when Freddy's looking at some generators in an icon. This is what Beta sees. He sees an icon on top of a Guardian, and then he like clicks a button, and then looks at a window, clicks that, and now that Guardian rushes there. So stuff like that. So you can block windows, pallets, and generators via a Guardian. Similar to Knight, I guess. Rage mechanic. Killing Guardians fills up Beta's abilities. For every Guardian killed, Beta's terror radius is increased by 5 meters. So, Alpha thrives off of Guardians being alive. Beta thrives off of killing them. Because every time he kills them, his terror radius is larger, so you put more pressure on survivors. And then his powers that we'll see next, or maybe the slide after, will be able to replenish from killing them. Knives. Knives are his most basic power. Knives are used as an M1 ability, but can also be used to hold survivors. Beta can throw knives at downed survivors to pin them in place so they can't crawl away. When a survivor is pinned by Beta's knives, they cannot work towards their recovery progress and instead must work towards freeing themselves. Downed survivors can be freed by other survivors very quickly or incredibly slow by themselves. So imagine you down a survivor at an exit gate and you down 2 of them. Throw a knife at one of the survivors, now they're pinned, and maybe you have agitation. You pick up the other survivor, you quickly run, hook them, and now you can get the other survivor. So there's various ways that this can work if you don't want to just pick up right away, or you're in a situation where, damn it, I'm stuck here, there's not much I can do. Because typically in some situations in DBD, there's not much else you can do to counter it. This playstyle gives you that ability to do so. Because if you just want to down a survivor, pin them, run to a generator, and then kick it with pop goes the weasel before it disappears, run back, pick up the survivor, hook them, and then do it all over again, you could do that. So this gives you different ways to do things, and I think this type of power would be really nice to see in DBD. But moving on to really the bulk of his power. Rage meter. Beta's rage meter starts off at 100% and slowly depletes until it's his time to switch back to alpha. His rage ability gives him several powers to play with. When Beta's rage meter is full, he starts with a stun token. Stun tokens allow Beta to endure pallet stuns. Once a survivor attempts to stun Beta, this consumes a stun token. Stun tokens are replenished for every 2 Guardians killed. So remember I said he gets stronger with killing Guardians? This is one way he does that. When the rage meter is at 80 to 100%, Beta can recover 66% quicker when falling from heights. When the rage meter is at 50 to 79%, Beta breaks walls and pallets 25% faster. When the rage meter is 49% and below, Beta recovers faster from all attacks by 30%. So his rage meter is a percentage based thing that allows him to do a lot of things, and in a way, he gets stronger as the rage meter depletes, and he gets various abilities that you can use to your style. And I think this really fits Beta because he's really this aggressive type of guy who's really angry and just wants to destroy anything in his path. And at some points, he can fall from heights normally. He can break walls and pallets faster. He can recover faster from, missing an attack, hitting an attack, and his next attack, which is this. Run and tackle. In addition to his other powers, Beta can charge his tackle and run through survivors, pallets, and walls. Run can be used to grab and tackle survivors against a wall or pushing them down on the ground and injuring them. Run and tackle can be used to break pallets and walls, whether alone or while holding a survivor. For every guardian killed, Beta can charge his run and tackle ability quicker. So another instance of how you're able to really do this with his guardians. Again, killing guardians makes him more powerful. He really thrives off of it, and we see it a lot in the show where Alpha is really more stealth based. He's not. He's huge. He's a big guy, and he uses that to his advantage. And I wanted a power that can really reflect it and make it where his body is his main weapon. And I think it's nice. It's nice to see a killer like that, that can really just show you who they are by just simply using their power. Now, the next part of this will be his weaknesses, alpha and beta weaknesses. This is the Sheriff Stuffelbag, and yes, I did use the Fortnite icon. Don't worry about it. The Sheriff Stuffelbag can be found in various lockers throughout the trial. It contains weapons and abilities that grant the survivors an advantage against the killer. The first two items that I guess is like rolling a 20 would be Rick's Sheriff hat and Daryl's wings. Rick's Sheriff's hat. Only one survivor can equip this ability. Vaulting a window or pallet grants the following effects for the next 16 seconds. Reveals your aura to all survivors. Survivors within 16 meters of you get an increase to the following action speeds for cleansing, gate opening, healing, sabotaging, unhooking, and unlocking by 25%. You vault 25% quicker. So basically, after you vault a window, you now vault faster, and then you get like a leader type ability for survivors that are around you, and they all see you. So you're basically the main character. Now let's look at Daryl's wings. Rushing out of a locker or falling from a great height grants the following effects for the next 16 seconds. Suppresses your aura, scratch marks, blood pools, and grunts of pain. Survivors within 16 meters of you see the killer's aura when performing their unique power or performing the break action. You recover from great heights 50% quicker. So you rush out of a locker, you fall from a height. Now you're basically hidden for the next 16 seconds. Survivors near you can see the killer, and if you fall from a great height, you recover faster. So this really can be used in chase and can help a lot against certain moments. Really, these things are meant to be used like, situationally, where if you want to save it towards the end game or right off the bat to help you, you can use these two abilities. And I think stuff like this is pretty fun to do, One side is vaulting quicker and allowing survivors to do things faster, while the other side is falling and recovering faster and suppressing your aura while also revealing aura. So it's nice. It's nice like that. But let me know what you guys think about this and if you would include any other item from The Walking Dead. But let's move on to the weapons. So as you can see, we have 4 weapons. We'll start with Rick's Colt Python. This will contain 6 bullets. It allows you to put down guardians from medium distance. Directly shooting the killer hinders them for 2 seconds. Then we have Michonne's Katana, which starts at 100% and each swing uses 25%. It allows you to put down guardians from close distance, and then swinging the katana grants you 15% haste for 3 seconds. So you don't even have to swing at a guardian, you can just swing it and then you get haste. We have Daryl's Crossbow, contains 5 arrows, allows you to put down guardians from a long distance. Arrows fired reveals the aura of anything within 8 meters of its target for 5 seconds, so that could be survivors, killers, hooks, generators, guardians, whatnot, Morgan's Staff starts at 100%, each swing uses 20%, allows you to put down guardians from close distance, so that and Michonne's katanas are from close distance. Swinging the staff hides your scratch marks and gives you 20% healing speeds for the next 6 seconds. So all of these have some use to them where you can save, their uses For directly against the killer, a guardian when you're on your own, whatever you want, and I think it gives you a variety. You have Rick's pistol that lets you hinder the killer, Michonne's katana that gives you haste, Daryl's crossbow that gives you like an aura reveal, and then Morgan's staff that's really for hiding and healing. And I like the various things that you can get from this, and obviously each survivor can get the same item if they want. This is not just limited to one survivor. But the other two, the hat and the wings, are. But these, anybody can get them. Now let's move to the Whisperers perks. And I had a lot of fun making these perks. And one of them is fairly unique, so I hope you guys really, really like them. But in terms of these items, let me know what you guys think about those and if you would change anything. A certain doom. At the start of the trial, your terror radius is transferred to every single generator for the first 120 seconds. When the survivor interacts with a generator that has your terror radius, they are inflicted with blindness and see an illusionary red stain on every pallet and window. This effect lingers for 20 seconds after they stop interacting with a generator. Decreases the base value of your terror radius by 6 meters for the remainder of the trial. So we have the perk from Plague, Corrupt, that starts at the first 120 seconds and that blocks gens, but this transfers your terror radius to every gen. And given how quiet the Whisperers are and how you really can't notice them coming, I thought this would be a perfect perk that really shows who they are and how scary they can be by making it where they're basically invisible at the beginning of a game, or any killer that uses this perk, And I wanted to make it sort of a fear factor where you touch a gen, not only do you hear the terror radius, you're blind, where you can't really see aura of anything, and you see that red stain on pallets and windows. It's really just for a psychological effect. And then on top of that, the killer now has a decrease in the base value of their terror radius. So overall, this is really going for that fear factor. And then, as with every single killer perk, I like to add this next part, which is if you equip this perk as the Whisperers, you gain an additional 10 seconds at the start of the trial, and the effect lingers for an additional 5 seconds. I think abilities like this encourages you to use the perk that came with the killer, and I think it should be stronger on that killer because they're the ones teaching it, It's a teachable perk, so I think of course it would be stronger on the killer that is teaching it and slightly weaker on everybody else, So that's my ideology with it. But a certain doom is in reference to the episode, season 10, episode 16. That's called a certain doom. And this, I think, really highlights that well.
All right, let's look at the next perk for the Whisperers. By the way, if my voice seems a little different, I did take a nap in between the last perk and this one. My voice was giving out and I was tired, so I was like, let me just take a nap. So if it seems different, this is my voice post nap. But the second perk for the Whisperers is called End of the World. Calls upon the entity to increase the thickness and frequency of the black mist by 300%. This is a different perk. I thought it would be fun to experiment a lot with this one and really change it up a notch instead of the typical, something to do with generators or heals or hooks or whatever. But so let's see what this one does. When a generator is repaired, I know I just said generator, but trust me. When a generator is repaired, it causes the black mist to be dispersed in a 24-meter radius and causes survivors to scream, revealing their aura for 2 seconds. So obviously we know what the black mist is. You can get offerings for that. It's just the overall mood and vibe of how the maps can be depending on the offerings you bring to increase that. They're kind of useless to be honest, but early in the game, when the game had different lighting graphics, it made a difference. And I guess this perk would really channel that inner early vibes of DBD that I never really played, but I know a lot of people love that. But so far, that's what this perk does. When the survivor passes through the black mist, they are revealed by Killer Instinct for 3 seconds and suffer from exhaustion for 10 seconds. So the black mist is really like a poisonous mist. You shouldn't really go through it. When all generators are repaired, the auras of exit gates are blocked. The killer's terror radius is transferred to them for 60 seconds, and the black mist surrounds them within a 24-meter radius. So, similar to other perks, like let's just say Corrupt or the perk before this immediately starts off at the beginning of the trial. You load into a map and it's 300% more with Black Mist, but this time a lot thicker, a lot more frequent. So it's gonna really be a dark map, and I think it would be really fun maybe in those like indoor maps. This would also make maps like the swamp maps like super dark and I don't know, kind of scary. I don't really like those maps, but I think something like this would make it better. If you can bring offerings and like I don't know, the lights out mode, maybe this would be super OP. I don't remember what you could do in that mode. I didn't really like it. But beside the point. So basically, you load in 300% more. Maybe we can even increase the percentage of that more depending on certain things. Like if maybe 300% isn't enough, we do 500%. Then when a generator is repaired, um, like from the points of where those like little nods or wheels or whatever they are on the top of the generators that go in and out, those will disperse the black mist in a 24-meter radius. So it would be kind of like a circular thing around it, and just it goes in that direction. And then obviously the survivors are gonna be hit by that immediately because they just finished the gen. So though they'd scream and then their aura reveal, and then typically throughout the match, if they just so happen to pass through the black mist, which they more than likely will, they'll be revealed by Killer Instinct and then suffer from exhaustion. So this could help if you're chasing a survivor. Now I don't know, this perk might be super OP to be honest, but hey, why not? Why not have something OP for like a day or two? Or I guess with behavior, sometimes they take a while, but who cares? But then all generators are repaired, so obviously that last generator will do the black mist thing again. But since it's the last one, now you'll get black mist around the exit gates, a lot of them in a 24-meter radius. Your killer radius will be tied to there, and then their aura will be blocked. So we recently had the Rick Grimes perk that would increase it by 16 seconds. Well, guess what? This won't increase it at all because this completely blocks it. So that would be something cool to do. And as always, let's look at how this perk can help this specific killer. When using this perk as the Whisperers, gain an additional 12 meters. So instead of 24-meter radius, it turns into 36. Honestly, that's pretty crazy. That is some killer's entire terror radius. So I guess that's nice. That's cool. But yeah, that's this perk. I think this would be fun to have. I really wish we had more unique perks that had like these specific interactions with the realm, especially with this mist. Because you can, I think it would then make it where even offerings might be usable to decrease the black mist. So I don't know. I think this would be nice. It would be something that could be like gimmicky if you're a stealth character, maybe like your pig, and you're running her Eerie add-on. I think it's called Amanda's Leather. That like lets you crouch and then see aura. This would be cool with it. Or even Myers. So this would be fun, especially on maps like Haddonfield and all that stuff. So I think this would be a fun perk to use and something that we haven't seen. And End of the World refers to the season 10 episode 2. We are the end of the world, but I thought we are the end of the world might be too much, so I just put end of the world. And then the icon refers to Beta combining his mask with Alpha's skin and it kind of made it like a Phantom of the Opera mask. If you ever see it in the show, it's really, really cool. But that's the references. Let's move on to the third and final perk. All right, perk number 3, Hex Art of Death. And yes, that is Dwight. For every first hook on the survivor, you hook them 66% faster, and your terror radius decreases by 6 meters for the next 24 seconds. For every second hook on a survivor, all survivors within 16 meters of a hook scream, reveal their aura for 6 seconds, and leave more scratch marks for the next 24 seconds. For every third hook on the survivor, so this would be the death hook, all survivors suffer from a 33% penalty to healing and repairing for the next 16 seconds. Any survivor healing within this period is revealed by Killer Instinct. Any generator being repaired within this period is highlighted in white. So let's actually look at the explanation for what this perk means. So Art of Death refers to Season 9, Episode 15 of The Walking Dead called The Calm. And in this episode, the Whisperers put their victims on pikes. And fans of the show found that the first initials of all the pike victims spells out Art of Death. And I thought, what if we make Art of Death something to symbolize, the idea of dying in this game, and that's getting hooked. Because eventually, after 2 hooks, when you go for that 3rd hook, you're dead. So I had originally made this perk, and I was like, it might be a little OP, so what if we just make it a hex perk? And I thought it would work perfectly, because in the show, you have their heads on pikes. In this one, they're on hooks, their whole body. So in a way, it's pretty cool. If they wanted to make a specific animation for this perk, maybe after a survivor dies, their head is left on the hook. That would be pretty cool, I think. So, on the first hook, you're hooking them faster, and your terror radius decreases. I think just that first hook being simply as that is good enough. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but it's like maybe you had a long chase. Oh my god, I have to hook. Well, you're gonna hook them fairly quick, so F it, just do it. So then on the second hook, I think that's when it starts to, get up there, because any survivor within 16 meters of a hook will scream and reveal their aura, and they leave more scratch marks. So this one is pretty RNG dependent, but I mean, typically you'll find a hook around the generator, so sometimes you'll probably get survivors around there, and you could pair this up with like other maybe Scourge hooks or hook-based perks. So I think that would be pretty cool. And then the third hook is when it gets crazy, and is the kind of the reason that I made that hex perk is because it would, once somebody dies, the survivors are a bit of a disadvantage now, and this kind of makes it even more that. So 33% penalty to healing and repairing, and then you can see if they're healing and if they're repairing, but it's only for 16 seconds. So I don't know. I know a lot of stuff can happen in 16 seconds, but I was like, hey, this is a hex perk, so there's some counter to it, and I think it would be cool to be OP. So then, if you are the Whisperers, and you're using this perk, you get an additional 4 seconds to everything. So 24 seconds for the first hook becomes 28 seconds. The aura reveal is now 10 seconds. The scratch marks is now 28. The repairing penalty and healing penalty is now 20. So, I think it would be really fun. I think you can pair it up with other hex perks. And I think as long as it can be destroyed, it's a good hex perk. If it was just a standalone perk and you just get all these buffs for hooking, that's kind of insane. But these are the perks for them. I thought these would be pretty fitting perks. They really not only fit the lore of the Whisperers, but I think they each do something fun and unique that we kind of haven't seen before. So yeah, that's the perks for the Whisperers. Let me know what you guys think about these perks, about the mechanics of the Whisperers, and overall just what you think of them as a killer. I would love to know. But moving on, let's go to the skins. So there's not much you could do with alpha skins. So I was thinking of doing alpha and beta skins, so you can kind of mix and match, and you can really like pick different ones for each one, and you're not really tied to the same release of certain skins. So these would be alpha skins. I think it would be pretty funny to have the dress one with the hat and everything. But these are everything that she has shown in the show, other than the naked one, which I don't think they would do that in this game. But this is what they showed, and if The Walking Dead gives them permission, maybe they can design their own skins for this collab. I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe Beta has some more, I guess, badass skins, and that would be these ones. So you have his maskless variant, which he doesn't ever really show his skin, like his actual face. But I think that image is from like behind the scenes. I think that would be pretty cool to have. Then you have his skin with Alpha at the bottom there, and then his origin skin, and then even an alternate outfit for him, having Negan under that skin. I think that would be pretty cool. But those are the skins for them. Hopefully they could, do whatever they want with them and, design some stuff. But that would be it. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure the Walking Dead collab is not going to feature a skin or like a killer for this, just the two survivors. But that's what I was thinking for skins. And I even thought of some skins for different killers. So let's look at them. So the Legion would get the Reapers skin. The Reapers already look a lot like the Legion, and they function like them in terms of moving as a team and just attacking them. And I was thinking you could do new voice lines. The terror radius could be updated and given them the Reapers theme. You can get a new Moria animation which highlights their attack in season 11, episode 3, when they first attack the group at the beginning. I think that could be a nice scene. So you could do a bunch of different skins from them. And I think that'd be really fun. I think this fits them perfectly, and I would love to see different skins for different killers. So moving on, we have the Walker killer skins for Hag, Trapper, and Billy. I think just look at them all mangled, and Hag really likes blood. Trapper, you could do really anything with him, and then Billy has that mangled look. So I think dressing them up as walkers would be really nice. It would be fun. It would make sense for the characters, and overall they would look super super spooky. Maybe you can even just give them like walker noises or something. Maybe update their mores to feature other walkers with them. Um, Potentially updating their tear radius music for like some Walking Dead themes, something like that. But that's what I had for them. This next one is my favorite actually. This is from Fear the Walking Dead. This is for Deathslinger, and this is Teddy. Teddy is a villain in Fear the Walking Dead. Honestly, I would say maybe my favorite villain in the whole Walking Dead universe. He's a cult leader. He was a serial killer before this, and then he became a cult leader after. And he dropped a nuke and everything. He's crazy. And honestly, I was like, there are two old white guys, put them together, you know? So the Mori could honestly include a nuke or something stupid like that, like a mini nuke. But I think having John Glover like in this game with his voice lines and everything, and all that wit and just charm of him in DBD would be super good and super cool, and it would really bring life to some of these killers and make the interactions a lot more fun. So I think this would be a cool, fun one. This probably would never happen realistically, but this is something that I really, really would like. And then finally, we have the Whisperers killer skins. So this is, the actual Walker skins that the people wear. And I was thinking on Huntress, Wraith, Unknown, and Bubba could have each of these killers wearing the faces of actual survivors. I believe they did that with Bubba at one point, but then had to remove some of them because people were weird. And I know Bubba is licensed, but it would be a fitting collab. I think having the different survivors like skins all over them and just different like pieces of the survivor with them, like charms or whatever, would fit these characters, and they're kind of all pretty scary and almost stealthy in a way. So I think that would be really fun. Um, I think that it really would fit on the unknown and maybe even Huntress, just because Huntress was hunting people and in the woods and all that stuff. And then Wraith is invisible and he could fit in with a Whisperer. Now, Bubba obviously makes a lot of noise, so he's not really a stealth killer, but he does wear people's faces, so it fits. So these are the skins that I thought of for these killers. If you think of any other killer that could get a skin, let me know. I would love to hear it, but let's move on to the final thing, the map. And the first map is really like an honorable mention. It is Alexandria. Alexandria would probably be the map. I don't know if they would actually release a map with The Walking Dead, but I think it would be cool. Alexandria, I thought with the homes and all that stuff would be cool, but we already have a map with homes with Haddonfield, so maybe they should do something different, which we'll talk about next. But Alexandria has, a good exit gate location. You could really have fun with it. You can have walkers around it, maybe. You could do things where the houses, the generators are in there. You have the windmill. You have like they could design Alexandria any way they want and just say, "Oh, this is from like if the walkers ran through and they rebuilt it." They could do whatever they want with it. But I think this next map is more fitting than Alexandria, and we've never seen a map like this in DBD, and that is the prison. The prison, I'm pretty sure we don't have a prison map. I don't recall ever seeing a prison map in DBD. I think this would be really fun. So obviously you have the lookout towers. You would have 2 lookout towers on the field in front where you first walk in. You would have walkers surrounding the entire prison. Now the prison is pretty big, so I think you would only do the field in front where the main gate is, and then the cell blocks, and then that courtyard. So I think that would be the map maybe. Because, you'd have the cell block that Rick and the gang lived in, and you would put generators in their chests. You could even have a basement there. And then you would have the large field, and you can feature the Killer Shack or even other staples from The Walking Dead in there. I don't know, maybe you put, like, something relating to Terminus in that field, or the barn. I don't know, you would do a big mashup, but the main thing is, it's the prison. And I think that would be really, really cool. Then you have so the front gate would be the exit gate, and that would be a guaranteed exit gate on the map, and the second one would spawn wherever. I think that would be really, really cool. And then you would have, as I said, the walkers are on the map, but here's what I want. I would want a little Easter egg where sometimes throughout the map, in the map, out the map, wherever, you would see Lori walking in a white dress. This is a callback to Rick seeing Lori in a white dress around the map after she had died. And I think that would be really cool, like a little haunting type thing where, oh my god, this person's haunted. We're seeing someone in a white dress. You could see her just watching you as you repair gens from far away. If you're on Hook, maybe after you leave, she's there. I think that would be really cool. And then I want to see the governor. I want the governor stalking the prison. Looking around the map, you can maybe see his glare, him just staring at you with a sniper or something. I think that would be really cool. So this would basically be the entity took over this area during season 3. Maybe even show Andrea walking through those fields as like she's trying to make her way to the prison. Something like that. But I think the prison would be a perfect map for DBD, and it would really bring life to these maps because it would be something we have never seen before. So that is everything. We talked about the 2 survivors, Rick and Daryl. We talked about the killers, the Whisperers, Alpha and Beta. We talked about the perks for all of them, the different skins, the alternate attires, what the maps would be like, and overall, we did a hypothetical of what a Walking Dead chapter would be like in Dead by Daylight. If you made it this far, thank you so much for just
vibing with me, listening to me ramble on, and overall just enjoying this type of content. I was working on this concept since January, and then today when I was actually at the dealership and I had saw that there was a Walking Dead Easter egg, I was like, oh my god, I really have to release this video now. Like, I can't just keep waiting, you know? You gotta lock in and release it. So I hope you guys like this one. Let me know what you think about it. If there's anything you would change about it, if you like or dislike it. I'm excited to see what The Walking Dead looks like in game. So then we can maybe compare it to mine and see, like, maybe mine is better. You never know. But hopefully, I don't know, something comes out of these videos because, like, I love making them and I really wish more people would watch them and appreciate them. Maybe behavior even looks at them. You never know. That's me being crazy in my head, so don't mind that. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you. If you want any more kinds of videos, let me know down below. And I will see you guys next time. Peace and love, friends. You guys stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you guys next time.